Good day, dear Wiggle Women event participants and speakers. I'm so happy to see you all here today. Let me welcome you on behalf of NU Library and our partners and collaborators. Before we start the roundtable and introducing today's brilliant speaker, let me quote the International Women's Day organization with the following. Each year, International Women's Day events are held worldwide. Community gatherings, conferences, awards, exhibitions, festivals, fun runs, corporate events, concert performances, speaking events, online digital gatherings, and more. Events are held by women's networks, companies, charities, educational institutions, government bodies, political parties, community groups, libraries, the media, and more. This year, the International Women's Day campaign theme is Break the Bias. Imagine a equal world, a world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination. A world that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive. A world where difference is valued and celebrated. Together, we can forge women's equality. Collectively, we can all break the bias. We can break the bias in our communities. We can break the bias in our workplaces. We can break the bias in our schools, colleges, and universities. Together, we can all break the bias on International Women's Day and beyond. And having this in our minds, I'm honored to introduce you speakers of today's roundtable. We will have such a brilliant speakers such as Madina Dzharbussynova, Parliament representative to the UN since 1999 till 2003, National Consultant for Gender Equality Forums, Action Coalitions. The other speaker is Kassiyet Omarova, Consultant UNDP Kazakhstan, also GSPP PhD student. Aizhan Ramazanova, co-founder of an NGO Institute of Childhood OYNA and the GSC PhD student. And our next speaker would be Dinara Kussain, Analyst, Communications and Advocacy UN Women Kazakhstan, and one of our proud partner of most events at any library. So I hope you will enjoy our speakers, and the first would be our brilliant speaker, Madina Dzharbussynova. Stage is yours.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to welcome all the participants of today's roundtable. But before, I'd like to say that I was not the parliament, but I was the permanent representative of Kazakhstan to the United Nations. So, dear participants of the roundtable, dear colleagues, I am very thankful to the Nazarbayev University Consortium of Gender Scholars, first of all, for the invitation to this round table, but maybe more for setting the topics of the today's discussion. And just before we started the roundtable, while checking our access to the roundtable, we changed, some participants changed some information, and I was glad to hear that Nazarbayev University during this day was an active center of several events devoted to the maybe International Women's Day, which was marked by the international community just 2 days, or I prefer to say that in general to the problem of achieving gender equality, to the problem of assuring women's, girls' rights. And I also would like to mention that on the 8th of March, in many world states, women, and not only women, but also progressive men, took to the street to protest against discrimination and violence women still encounter in the modern world in the 21st century, which is a shame for the world community. And also, I'd like in this context mention the rally organized by women activists in Almaty, which gathered more than 1,000 participants, and the event, March of Students, organized by the Nazarbayev University. And this is also an indication that still the issues of equality, of parity, the issues of gender equality and violence and discrimination against women should be in the focus, as the world hasn't maybe moved to the full achievement of the goals which were stated by the Beijing document, Beijing Platform of Action, Beijing Declaration, and last year they were echoed at the Paris Generation Equality Forum in Mexico, also first in Mexico, then in Paris. In this context, I'd like to just go back in my memories to 1995. It was the year when in August I joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Kazakhstan. We were still a young independent republic, but we already wanted to actively participate in the activities aimed at insurance of women's rights. And my first serious assignment was to assist the Kazakhstan delegation in preparations for the Beijing conference. And I thoroughly looked at the official report of the Kazakh delegation, which was headed by the head of the Kazakh Union of Women. Maybe you know the name, Dr. Kayupova Nina Amirovna, and co-chair was the first lady, or honorary chair was the first lady. And then when I looked at the report, I saw that it was full of statements of how women's rights were guaranteed and ensured in Kazakhstan. Yes, our constitution guaranteed the equality of rights irrespective of gender, irrespective of race, and we were proud of these norms of our constitution. But in reality, it wasn't as bright as it should be, and as it was stated in the report. And I tried to convince the head of the delegation, those who drafted the report, and it was drafted by the Minister of Labor, that we should be maybe, that we should have a more focus on the problems which women in our country, as well as in neighboring post-Soviet countries, faced in general and especially after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Those 19 years were really difficult years for women, mothers, child and adults cares. But I wasn't so successful. But I noticed how changed their mindset, their opinion was after they participated in the conference. So the conference itself, the voices they heard, the problems that were raised at the conference made them rethink about the approach and the need to take some more active steps in order to change the situation. And you know that important achievements were important results were achieved immediately after the Beijing conference and in subsequent years. There were some legislative norms adopted and introduced in Kazakhstan. For example, the law on equal rights of men and women. The National Commission on Women and Gender Issues, then it was changed, Women and Family Demographic Issues was established, and at different stages, it was headed by the chair of this National Commission was empowered by being a minister in the government, so having this executive power, by the state secretary, Samakova, Abdikalakova, and although the National Commission had and still has this consultative status, but at different stages it was very powerful and was very visible and heard in the Republic. And as a result, we really, as I've said, we really achieved some certain results. For example, the number of women in the parliament increased greatly and reached up to 27%. It was exemplary for the Central Asia and many world states. We had many, not many, but 4 or 5 women ministers in the government. And look where we now. Just only one woman minister in Kazakhstan. So there were attempts to increase presence of women at decision-making, decision-taking levels. And in addition to the achievements, which were, I think, which belong to the Soviet era, when women had equal access to education, equal access to health care, we started working on empowering women in economics, trying to give them more equal rights and better access to economic justice. And according to the Kazakhstan country gender assessment carried out by the Asian Development Bank, Kazakhstan is placed in Group 1 that comprises the countries where key gender and development indicators demonstrate high equality between men and women, access to health, education, and command over economic resources. But last year, our president, participating at the Paris Generation Equality Forum, announced about the Kazakhstan's commitment to allow to give more economic justice and give more economic rights to women. And this is really a necessity, because when we analyze the capacities of our women, we still see the gaps in payment, in their access to natural resources, economic resources. But we also see the differences in positions. Women. Am I heard?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Oh, yeah, because I thought
Yes.
that there was something technically happened, and as the moderator disappeared from my screen, I thought that something happened and I am not heard. Okay, it's good. So we started taking some measures. The government last year prohibited the list of professions, professional occupations for women. This list was abolished for women, but it's only one step, which of course doesn't mean the insurance of equal economic rights, and it doesn't speak about economic justice for women. And although according to different assessment, women's social status in Kazakhstan has significantly changed, and the concept of equality between men and women is widely accepted in modern Kazakhstan society. We still think that we should work at the we should work on changing the mindset sets. We should work at overcoming, at helping women to overcome the barriers, and we should aim our activities at eradicating the discrimination. The tradition, still we should admit that traditional stereotype of women's role as wife, mother, and daughter-in-law remains primarily in public discourse. So women in Kazakhstan, by and large, are expected to both maintain a professional occupation and perform housework and child care responsibilities. For sure, the pressure to fulfill their responsibilities limit women's capacities and professional opportunities for them. And socio-cultural context plays an important role in understanding existing gender disparities in many fields. And for example, in women's participation in science, technology, engineering, math. I know that a couple of years ago in your Nazarbayev University, research was carried out just to examine the access of and involvement of girls and young boys and their enrollment into School of Engineering and Digital Sciences. And the data from the research, the data from the undergraduate and graduate programs in the School of Engineering and Digital Sciences indicate that the majority of programs enroll and support men more than women. And this is irrespective of the fact that more women have got diplomas of high education. More girls have better results graduating from secondary school. So this is already an example of bias attitude. And so in order to reach gender equity, fair and just treatment of girls and boys, we have to start changing mindsets from young childhood, and especially mindset of girls, giving them more insurance in their capacities. And I'd like to applaud to the project supported by the UN Women Kazakhstan by developing this STEM project in the oblast of Kazakhstan, especially in those from which the involvement of girls into enrollment of girls into this science, technology, and engineering has been very low. And I would also like to say that we face, I mean, women, we face a sort of unconscious gender bias, which is a significant barrier to advancement of women's career. And I'm speaking about this from the first hand. And so this unconscious gender bias is difficult to identify and thus difficult to prevent. And as a result, women are underrepresented in decision making, and the share of women decreases with each step up the corporate or agency hierarchy. For example, speaking about the diplomacy and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, we have many young women in different departments. But when we speak at those who are heads of departments, vice ministers, and in 30 years of independence, looking at who was appointed as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, there were few women heads of departments, only one vice minister, it was me, and no female minister. And this is, I think, is a vivid example of this unconscious gender bias, and it's a sort of discrimination. So women encounter many barriers to advancement into leadership positions, and these barriers include gender-based discrimination as well as unconscious gender bias, and more must be done to enable highly skilled women to advance into leadership positions. And of course, it wouldn't be achieved if we don't change mindsets of our partners, of men. And this should be started, as I already mentioned, from the early childhood. When I speak about unconscious gender bias, I mean an unintentional mental associations based on gender stemming from the traditions, norms, values, culture, and experience. And we know that many think that empowering women would bring to some changes in the family set, that we will lose some family values and norms. And this is not so. Example of women leaders are illustration to this, or the proof to this. So what should be done, I think? As I said, as I repeated several times, changing mindsets, fighting gender stereotypes and biases that limit girls' expectations and professional goals since their early childhood. More should be done in this area, or to achieve these goals, by women leaders who are essential as catalysts for change, as they may serve as they may do a lot to empower other women in the same professions. For example, I was many times being as the ambassador, vice minister in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I was many times approached by my younger colleagues who told me that for them I was a role model, and they wanted to get some support from me, some advices. And women can also raise awareness about the barriers they face and act as role models. And of course, in general, the awareness raising in the society should be paid more attention. We should see, there is a need to see more successful women in science, business, politics on our TV screens, participating in different discussions. And I also think that, I mentioned the National Commission was established in Kazakhstan in 1996, and I think that the status of this commission should be changed. Maybe it's for some period when we achieve better results in women empowerment, in gender equality in Kazakhstan. Certain quotas should be introduced, as, for example, they were introduced before the parliamentary elections, up to 30%. But we should speak about 30% of women, not just 30% of women, young parliamentarians, and candidates with certain disabilities. I think that same quotas should be introduced in when we speak about positions in different companies in business and at decision making level. The secretariat, which serves the National Commission, is very small, and it needs certain powers to work horizontally and vertically with all other governmental agencies. And as in many countries, there is an example of appointing focal points in the ministry, and it's also in international organizations. For example, in the OC, where I worked for the last 6 years of my career, in each department there is a person identified as a focal point on gender equality issues. Just in addition to the main functional responsibilities of this person. And what is good that the organization tries that this focal point is selected from men, part of the organization. And
apologies,
yes,
sorry to interrupt
last
you.
sentence. I'd like to say that
okay.
in comparison to other Central Asian states, we may say that, yes, we are maybe champions as in many other international organizations, but this is not what can satisfy us, because I know that capacities of our women and girls are greater than the possibilities they have. Thank you. And sorry if I...
Thank you, Madina Vineshevna, for sharing such incredible stories from your angle, from your experience and knowledge. This is really important to know. And thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks. And now our next speaker is Kassiyet Omarova. Kassiyet, are you ready? Okay. You need to unmute yourself.
Yes, we are ready. Can we share our screen, please?
Yes, stage is yours.
So thank you, Elizaveta. Thank you, Aizhan. I'm very glad to be here among such great speakers. Thank you for that. Today, me and Leila together we will present you a short presentation about bias against girls and women with disability. Because I have a disability, half of my life I live with a disability. I'm totally blind, and before I lost my vision, I graduated from the university and worked as an economist. And after that, I couldn't work as an economist, and but go to social sector and work in an NGO and in public bodies and so on.
So we are going to raise the topic about bias towards girls and women with disabilities.
Yes, thank you, Leila. UN Convention recognizes that women and girls with disability are subject of multiple discrimination. They're discriminated as a women, they're discriminated as a people with disabilities, and as a result of all of that, they're discriminated as a people of low income. There are 5 most common negative stereotypes about women with disabilities.
So they are: a woman with a disability always needs help. A woman with a disability lifestyle is completely different from common people's lifestyles. A woman with a disability cannot have healthy children. A woman with a disability is not sexy and does not need intimate relationships.
Okay.
A woman with a disability cannot be married.
Yes, thank you. And today we try to show you that all of these statements are not true, actually, and that women with disability can live and work as other women. Our first example is Aizhan. She is a journalist from Karaganda. She and her husband have 3 children, big house, cats and dogs. And Aizhan, as all women can manage to care. Oh,
sorry, we can see the next screenshot. I mean, the slides are not moving. If you are showing something,
Do you see something now?
No, it's not moving. Maybe resharing, yeah. Sorry.
What about now?
We can see the first page of your presentation.
So is our presentation? Oh,
yes.
Oh,
Давайте я просто... What about this?
Yes, now it's second page. Yeah. Thank you.
So Aizhan, she has 3 children. 2 of your young children was born after a car incident, which was the result of which Aizhan became a wheelchair user. But she still works as a journalist. She still care about her children, do homework with them, cook delicious food, and all of these things that usually do women in our country. You can see her profile on social media, and where she share with us about her life, her children, about her work. Aizhan and other women breaks negative stereotypes that women with disabilities cannot have healthy children. However,
so we also can say that she tells her wonderful stories on Facebook and Instagram, where well, we see it on the previous slide. And can you imagine that she uses keyboard only with 2 fingers?
Yes, but he works with a huge amount of texts. He writes many wonderful texts as a journalist, as a blogger. But however, in Kazakhstan, only almost 1% of women with disabilities of a fertile age have children. According to the research, women usually say that doctors persuade them to have an abortion and do not agree to help them with pregnancy and childbirth. They say that it's very difficult to find doctors who will be on their side. Moreover, in many countries, even nowadays, there are forcible sterilization of women and girls with disabilities. Even women and girls with disabilities are not informed what kind of operations it is. They told that it's just for treatment and something like that, not the true purpose of the surgery.
So we can see that women and girls with a disability are the most vulnerable group to this type of violations of human rights.
I can also want to highlight that women with disabilities have a double pressure of contradictory negative stereotypes in our society. On the one hand, people believe that woman must realize herself as a mother and give a birth, so-called child for herself after a certain age. But on the other hand, when people look at women with a disability, they can see only a disability. And because of this, they think that women with disabilities should not be allowed to have a child. And
also we can say something about Aizhan, and we see her at the slides. Aizhan, and not only she, also destroys the stereotype that a woman with a disability does not want and cannot be beautiful, be interested in fashion, choose beautiful dresses, do makeup, and all other things that common women do.
Thank you. Another interesting position that women with disabilities have between two stereotypes. Some people believe that women with disabilities, that we have a very complex character, very complex nature. We are angry, we are pity, and always do something bad, or even in graduate. Sorry.
Well, if someone suddenly do something good for women, or like anyone with a disability, one can face ingratitude. Like this is a common stereotype.
Yeah, it's very common stereotype, and people even refuse to help people with disabilities because they think that we are ingratitude. But and it is very big distance, and position of women with disabilities is somewhere down from the society, not equal. And on the other hand, we are not equal when people tries to make to consider us as a heroines, as well done because we achieved something in our lives and so on. And it is also not equal because people put women with disabilities on pedestal, and it is also something far from the society, something up. And all of these stereotypes make us to feel guilty because we are not enough cheerful, because we are not gratitude enough, and so on, and because we don't fit with this ideal woman that people wants to see.
So we can say that society allows a woman with a disability to play only certain roles of disembodied motivating angels far, far above, or controversially objects for charity somewhere far, far below, and not an equal position.
An equal, yeah. Right. So the second example today is Maria. She is a medical student at Medicine University in Almaty. In September of in the last September, we held a training session for professors and administrators of the university to help Maria relief of accessing guardianship from one side, and on one side, and on other side to identify what kind of support and help she can she needs as a student with disability.
So we well see her at the slides. She's blind. And
yeah, when she was a third-year student, she got disability and lost her vision, and it took more than 4 years for her to realize herself and to convince others that she can be a certified medical doctor.
In September, we held this
interestingly, that Maria also had to prove that had to prove her right and to find that she is her right, that she cannot be an excellent student, cannot be an ideal student for professors to motivate other students. And she said that she likes just study in lower grades and live usual life as other students So it's very interesting case because we also have a stereotype that blind people cannot be doctors. So this is, in short, our presentation, these two cases, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Kassiyet. Thank you, Leila. This is really interesting story. It's even heartbreaking. Thank you so much for sharing that. I believe we will have some time at the end to discussion, to ask questions. And now we will move to our next speaker, Aizhan Ramazanova. Aizhan, please.
Hello, everyone. I will share my screen. Do you see my presentation?
We can see the first page, yes.
Yeah, so is it full screen now?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's great. So thank you for inviting me for to this round table with such brilliant speakers and for such inspiring stories by Kassiyet. I will share my personal experience and thoughts about stereotypes and biases. I'm not expert in this field, and while preparing for this roundtable, I was reflecting on what really brought me to this point. And I have come up with my kind of education stare. So I found out that I spent more than 20 years for my education in formal institutions, and more than 10 years I have been working in the field of education. So overall, more than 30 years, almost all my life, I am in education. And that's why for me, education has a critical role. And my education really shaped me as a person. In 1990, at the age of 2, I was enrolled in a state kindergarten near my house in Semipalatinsk. And though it was before getting the independence, it was still quite a Soviet kindergarten. Then I went to the school during this post-Soviet period. And in kindergarten and at school, I experienced a really strong authoritarian approach. And to be honest, I didn't enjoy my school experience because I was a Kazakh-speaking girl without any Russian at all in the best Russian school in the city. So now I understand how it really influenced my character. And next, after my school, I entered the British University, and it transformed me a lot and gave me opportunity for self-expression and development of my skills. After I did my degree at Nazarbayev University, my master's degree, and now I'm doing my PhD here. And every stage of my education was different, with different ideologies and values, starting from Soviet, then post-Soviet, liberal and neoliberal, and all this various experience had impact on me. And I truly believe that education is a really powerful weapon, and education provides us with an environment where we are educated, including through a hidden curriculum, which is not written, but by interacting with others, we obtain those values, beliefs, and also biases. So we're shaped by our environment, and which is actually full of stereotypes and biases. And the actual stereotypes influenced my choice of profession. I was willing to work in healthcare and or science field, but my mom, as being a healthcare worker, insisted that healthcare is low-paid job and it's low status. And my granddad, he was a maths professor and persuaded me that science is not for girls. So I decided to study economics. I didn't know what it is about, but thanks God, I combined it with education course, and I became passionate about education. So my close people's stereotypes and biases influenced a lot who I have become, really. And in our society, there are so many cases when young people choose what their parents say. And I was lucky that I could realize myself in the field of education, though maybe I could be a better doctor, but who knows?
So unfortunately, stereotype and biases are part of our life, and there are lots of information, and our brain tries to simplify everything. Our brain constantly sorts and labels the world around us, and we have those like brain shortcuts, which are like based on those patterns that we experience in our life. So I can be biased for others, but also for myself. So I think here education is really critical. And for me, development of critical thinking specifically helps to reduce those stereotypes and biases in our society. Lack of critical thinking leads to ignorance. And as we know, in Kazakhstan, we have low scores on international research like PISA and PIAC, assessing those high order thinking skills as critical thinking. So we have kind of this learning crisis when we have this low quality of education, which doesn't develop the relevant skills in our students. So I put here the quote by Noam Chomsky, who said, "I try to encourage people to think for themselves, to question standard assumptions, don't take assumptions for granted, begin by taking a skeptical attitude towards anything that is conventional wisdom, make it justify itself. It usually cannot. Be willing to ask questions about what is taken for granted. Try to think things through yourself." So for me, it's really important words that I try to follow. And as it was mentioned by the first speaker, stereotypes begin from early age. Sorry. Okay. So early childhood education is among the most like female-dominated industries, and in Kazakhstan as well. And however, even in such feminine environment, it is important to promote the gender equality. Early years educators need to ensure that all children get the opportunity to experience different types of toys and plays and situations, so that they can realize their full potential. And stereotyped ideas about what is suitable for boys and girls can limit children's opportunities to learn and develop. And we know from our experience that there are lots of those stereotypes. And I put here like kind of 8 ideas how to promote the gender equality. So like creating a safe space where it's okay to be different by encouraging a culture of acceptance, challenging stereotypes when you hear them in the classroom, provide a range of models. So for example, the superheroes are not just male, and make the most of books. And yesterday we heard from the research that they're like our textbooks from at school are really reflecting those stereotypes and biases. Look at who uses which spaces and equipment. Pick other ways to divide up children, not just by gender, but maybe by age, birthday, or alphabetically. Use inclusive language, like small changes like saying children instead of like girls and boys, and think about rewards and sanctions. So I would like to take this opportunity to really highlight the importance of also like unmuting children's voice, because there is another big bias in our society about children, that they are not capable. So children's voice are not presented in early childhood education decisions. And Luis Malaguzzi nicely articulated that things about children and for children are only learned from children. And it's good that now in the international research, there is a trend to have more research with and for children instead of having them just as research participants. And they are really recognized as experts. And there are like studies when children's drawings and conversations, they give insights for the development of early childhood education overall. And it is also important to develop those like culturally and developmentally appropriate teaching approaches in the field of early childhood education. So along with my education, my motherhood experience transformed me really a lot when I my first son was born, as an emerging researcher, I became immersed in these issues of early childhood development, and I was involved in different projects, it was clear that the current practices in early childhood education are driven by adults, but not by the interests or needs of children. So my two kids became really my great inspirations and motivations to make a valuable contribution in this field. And also my study visit to New Zealand was really inspiring, because I learned a lot, and I started dreaming about like contributing to the development of this field in my country. And today I'm doing my PhD, and I'm researching the quality of early childhood education, so contribute to its improvement in Kazakhstan. From 2020, I was actively involved in the field of early childhood education. It was it has become my kind of a new professional path. I became a part of the national project where we, as agents of change, were involved in putting together the recommendation to the government how to improve the quality of early childhood education. And actually, one of the suggestions of our team was to announce 2022 as a children's year, and we're happy that it became real. And the main outcome of this project was like bringing together people who are really passionate about this topic. And last year we established NGO, Institute of Childhood OYNA. We called it OYNA because we really would like to emphasize the role of play in the development of children, because there is a lack of play at home and in kindergartens. So yeah, and in this community, we all try to be very proactive and inform the local community about the evidence-based practices in early childhood. And of course, if you are interested to contribute, you can join, and we would love to have more members in our community. And last year, I was also part of two projects on inclusion and the quality of early childhood education. And I believe that all these projects are really contributing to the reducing the stereotypes and biases in our society. And just at the end, I would like to emphasize that I truly believe that there are like multiple realities. I'm sorry, my neighbors are doing repairment works. I asked them to stop for a while, but they don't care. So there are multiple realities for me, and those realities are really socially constructed, and we need really more research to study those social constructions in our society. And then just wanted to say that I'm very lucky that I was raised in a family where women had really strong character, and they were hardworking, they were highly educated. And however, I'm aware that there are a lot of gender inequalities in our society. And even though our women are very educated and actively involved in labor market, there are many stereotypes, unfortunately, and which should be addressed, especially in terms of the violence and the economic justice. As it was said, that the violence and poverty, they go hand in hand. And also, I would like to highlight yesterday's the Professor Durrani's argument that the gender equal world is good not only for women, but for all of us. And I totally agree with that. So thank you for your attention, and thank you again for the inviting to this event.
Thank you, Aizhan. Thank you. This is really inspiring story of your life and work that you're doing. Really great to share with us. Thank you. Thank you so much. And the last but not the least, we have here Dinara. Dinara, please, stage is yours.
Hello, everyone. First of all, let me congratulate you all with the International Women's Day. This is actually an important day that gives us, I think, an opportunity to look around and see on what has already been done and where we should still put greater effort to empower girls and women at local, national, and global level. And I'm really inspired to see today our dear participants I know many of you personally as real Kazakhstani female change makers, smart, dedicated, committed to serve their community. I'm very privileged to take part in this World Week. 2 years ago, I already took part in the Week of Women at Nazarbayev University with the presentation of my book, Salem Parents. And today we're meeting here at the Break the Bias Roundtable. First of all, I would like to mention that this year is very special for Kazakhstan. Just a few days ago, on March 2nd, Kazakhstan celebrated its 30th anniversary of its membership to the United Nations. And I am really glad to speak about those national achievements that have been reached in the area of gender equality and women empowerment during this period. In the first years of independence, Kazakhstan introduced its national women machinery, and in 1998 established National Commission for Women Affairs and Family and Demographic Policy under the president. In 2006, our country became the first state in Central Asia that adopted a gender equality strategy. And last year, as previously dear Madina have already mentioned, our country completely abolished the list of prohibited professions for women. That's actually a really great achievement that women in many countries are still striving for. This list consisted of 191 occupations. Can you imagine? So now we don't have such prohibited professions for women. And in 2021, Kazakhstan also launched the Library of Gender Project, which actually became a foundation for a newly established Central Asian virtual community of practice that was created with the great support of the United Nations and also the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And in 2021, Kazakhstan also joined 2 Generation Equality Forum Action Coalition on gender-based violence and also economic rights and justice. UN Women welcomes Kazakhstan's adoption of the National Action Plan on implementation the UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace, and security. And did you know that today more than 500 Kazakhstani military, including women, are ready to serve at UN peacekeeping forces? And they're taking part in global humanitarian operations in many parts of the world. This is also one of big achievements, I think. So if analyze the current situation, we may say that women and girls today make up half of Kazakhstan's population and almost half of the national workforce. And women today prevail in medicine, education, and science. 55% of civil servants in this country are women. And in addition to that, the share of Kazakhstani women who received higher education exceeds the share of men graduated from universities. At the same time, unfortunately, women are significantly underrepresented at decision-making level in the management of Kazakhstani companies, in the government bodies, in the parliament. So therefore, UN Women Kazakhstan strongly advocates to introduce a gender quota with a minimum threshold of 30%, targeting only women in order to represent them in the parliament, in the government, in local executive bodies, public services, and political parties and state corporations. So we propose also to integrate gender quotas through the introduction of special legal amendments to the laws and regulations of this republic. This year, in 2022, International Women's Day took place on the eve of 66th session of the UN, the Commission on the Status of Women, where Kazakhstan's delegation actually will also actively participate. And the agenda of the session for this year is achieving gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls in the context of climate change environmental and disaster risk reduction policies and programs. This is a chance to discuss how climate change and environmental issues affect women's well-being, as well as to give a tribute to female researchers, including a researcher from Nazarbayev University, women policymakers, and activists who help us today to reach the goal, which sounds like equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. And this is a moment where I can give my tribute for everything you all are doing to make this world a better place for women and girls. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dinara. It is really interesting to know that all these steps are suggested, recommended from UN Kazakhstan. I hope they will be accomplished and successfully accepted by our government, everyone up there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I would like to thank all of you, dear speakers, for such an amazing topics you bring to us today. This is it has so many angles and so many difficulties that we're facing, and all of you doing such an amazing work in order to break the bias. And I would like to thank the participants of today's session for joining us and for supporting us. And if you have any questions or comments, I would like to give you a word if anyone wants to say something. Yeah, if any.
May I just want to say yes, again, that I'm really inspired, yes, to be today, to the part of this event and to listen to all these amazing speakers and their stories. They're very touching, they're true, and yes, and they're real, and all the stories and all those people are really breaking the bias. Thank you so much. I learned a lot from all of you today.
Thank you.
May I also comment? Hi, my name is Ainur. I'm from Nazarbayev University Marketing Department, and I'm really glad to participate in this session, and it inspired me very much. And I want to thank you for promoting these issues, these topics. We really should discuss them. It's a very important topic, especially for our country, and I'm really inspired. And thank you, Lisa, for inviting me.
Thank you, Ainur. Thank you. So, thank you again. Thank you, Dinara, Madina, Aizhan, Kassiyet. Thank you, all of you, for sharing your stories, and thank you for being with us. And I think we can finish our session. And please remember that we will be uploading this video to the YouTube channel of the Nazarbayev University Library. And later on, when the editing will be done, I'll be sharing it with you. So thank you so much. Thank you for.
Thank you. Should we make the final screenshot maybe,
sure.
if everyone will turn on their cameras and yeah, like to see the faces of all the speakers if it's available.
Yes,
Maybe
if
we
we
ask.
can have a photo all together.
Yeah,
Yay.
that would be cool.
Okay, great. Just one more time.
Okay.
And shut. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll send you later.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you and
Thank
bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.